High Admiral Zeneval stood before the strategic command of the United Systems, her crystalline form dimming with each word of her report. The massive chamber, carved from a living asteroid, held representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations. Today, none of them spoke. None of them dared. The Omega defense line has fallen, she announced, her voice resonating through the neural networks connecting all present. The harvesters consumed the entire Centauri arm in less than a solar cycle. 42 billion sentients, gone. The chamber's bioluminescent walls pulsed red with shared grief. The harvesters, ancient machines that had slumbered in the galactic core for millions of years, had awakened 6 months ago. Their directive seemed simple: convert all organic life into energy to sustain themselves. Their execution was terrifying. First Speaker Ren, a being of pure energy contained within a quantum matrix, floated forward. We've lost 20% of our combined territories. Our most advanced weapons barely slow them down. They adapt to everything we deploy within hours. The collective has run 17 million simulations, added core intelligence, Psi, its holographic form flickering with computational stress. We have exhausted all conventional strategic options. Victory probability 0.003%. Zeneval's crystalline surface rippled with frustrated energy. There must be something we haven't tried, some variable we haven't considered. In the shadows of the chamber's upper tier, Observer Kith shifted. The small gray-furred being had remained silent throughout the proceedings, but now its whiskers twitched with nervous energy. What it was about to suggest went against every protocol, every carefully maintained regulation about developing civilizations. There is one option we haven't considered, Kith said softly, yet every being in the chamber turned to listen. In the outer spiral arm, there's a species we've been monitoring. They're pre-FTL, technically primitive by our standards, but speak plainly. Observer, First Speaker Ren urged. They're called humans. They evolved on a death world, a planet that by all rights should have killed them dozens of times over. Their gravity is crushing, their atmosphere corrosive, their biosphere filled with toxins and predators. Yet they didn't just survive. They thrived. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Deathworlders were rare, usually savage and impossible to reason with. Most stayed confined to their hellish homeworlds. I studied them for 3 centuries, Kith continued, growing bolder. They possess something I'd never seen in any other species. When faced with extinction-level threats, they don't freeze or flee. They innovate. They adapt faster than any species we've encountered. And most importantly, they never, ever give up. Admiral Zeneval's crystalline form brightened with interest. What makes you think they could succeed where our advanced civilizations have failed? Because they think differently than us, Kith explained, activating a holographic display. Look at their history. When disease ravaged their populations, they developed medicine. When nature threatened them, they built shelters that could withstand anything. When their planet's climate began changing, they adapted their entire civilization. They're constantly fighting, constantly improving, constantly overcoming impossible odds. The display showed scenes from Earth's history, humans battling natural disasters, developing new technologies, exploring the most hostile environments on their world. The assembled aliens watched in fascination as these soft, fragile beings repeatedly threw themselves against challenges that would have made most species surrender. They're barbaric, one representative objected. Look at their weapons, their conflicts. Yes, Kith agreed. They understand violence in ways we never had to learn. But look deeper. The display shifted to show humans rushing into burning buildings to save strangers, diving into turbulent waters to rescue others, working together to rebuild after disasters. Their capacity for violence is matched by their capacity for sacrifice, cooperation, and raw determination. First Speaker Ren's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. Even if what you say is true, they're centuries behind us technologically. How could they possibly help against the harvesters? Because the harvesters operate on pure logic, Kith replied. They analyze, adapt, and overcome through computational superiority. But humans are gloriously, brilliantly illogical. They try things that shouldn't work. They take risks that no sane species would consider. They look at impossible situations and refuse to accept them as such. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The harvesters had consistently defeated their perfect strategies and flawless logic. Perhaps what they needed was something the machines couldn't quantify or predict. Admiral Zeneval raised her crystalline form to its full height. Making contact with a pre-FTL civilization goes against our most sacred laws. The cultural contamination alone will be irrelevant if we're all dead, Kith interrupted. We're not just losing territory or resources. We're facing the extinction of all organic life in the galaxy. Maybe it's time to break some rules. Core Intelligence's hologram flickered rapidly as it processed the proposal. Observer Kith's suggestion, while unorthodox, introduces an unknown variable into our calculations. The harvesters have shown they can predict and counter our strategies because they understand how our civilizations think. A species that evolved under completely different pressures, with entirely different approaches to problem solving, could be exactly what we need. First speaker Ren finished. But the risks are enormous. If we do this, we're not just making first contact. We're dragging a young species into a galactic war. Then let them choose, Kith suggested. Show them what we face. Show them what's at stake. If I'm wrong about them, they'll refuse, and we've lost nothing. But if I'm right, Admiral Zeneval's crystal surface shimmered with decision. We put it to a vote. All in favor of authorizing first contact with Earth, signal now. One by one, lights began appearing in the chamber, neural signatures indicating approval. Some representatives hesitated, centuries of tradition warring with desperation. But as the harvester threat loomed over them all, more lights winked into existence. The vote was decisive. They would reach out to Earth. I pray you're right about them. Observer, Admiral Zeneval said quietly. Because if you're wrong, we may have just doomed humanity along with ourselves. Kith's whiskers twitched with nervous anticipation. Humans have a saying. The darkest hour is just before the dawn. They've faced their own darkness countless times and always found their way to the light. Perhaps they can show us how to do the same. As the Strategic Command began planning the most important first contact in galactic history, Kith watched the holographic images of Earth. Somewhere on that beautiful, terrible world, humanity was going about its daily business, unaware that the galaxy was about to call upon them for salvation. The observer allowed himself to feel something he hadn't experienced since the harvesters first appeared: hope. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the window of the International Space Defense Center, watching the alien ship descend through Earth's atmosphere. The massive vessel, shaped like an elongated diamond, seemed to absorb rather than reflect sunlight. Despite its size, it moved with impossible grace, defying everything she knew about aerodynamics. Still can't quite believe it, can you? General Marcus Rodriguez said, joining her at the window. The veteran soldier's weathered face wore the same expression of wonder she felt. 3 days ago, our biggest concern was getting funding for the Mars mission, Sarah replied, adjusting her lab coat nervously. Now we're about to meet representatives from an interstellar civilization. The ship settled onto the massive landing pad with barely a whisper. Unlike the dramatic scenes from science fiction movies, there was no blast of engines, no scorched earth. It simply arrived. All department heads to the reception area, the intercom announced. First contact protocols are now in effect. Sarah fell into step beside the general as they headed toward the meeting that would change human history. As the facility's lead xenobiologist, a position that had been largely theoretical until 72 hours ago, she would be one of the first humans to interact with alien life. The reception area had been specially prepared following the alien specifications. The atmosphere was carefully controlled, gravity reduced to 0.7 Earth standard, and specialized lighting installed to accommodate various forms of vision. A delegation of Earth's top officials and experts waited nervously. When the alien representatives emerged, Sarah's scientific mind went into overdrive. The first was a crystalline being that seemed to glow from within, its form constantly shifting like living glass. The second was small and gray-furred, almost rodent-like, but with large, intelligent eyes. The third was pure energy contained within what looked like a floating sphere of liquid metal. "I am Admiral Zeneval," the crystalline being announced, its voice translated by devices that had been provided ahead of time. "With me are Observer Kith and First Speaker Wren. We represent the United Systems, and we come seeking humanity's help." General Rodriguez stepped forward. "I'm General Marcus Rodriguez. With me are Dr. Sarah Chen and various representatives of Earth's nations. We're honored by your presence, but seeking our help. Your technology is centuries beyond ours." "Technology isn't everything," Observer Kith said softly. "Sometimes the oldest problems require the freshest perspectives." The aliens proceeded to explain the situation. The harvesters, their devastating advance across the galaxy, the billions of lives lost. As they spoke, holographic displays showed the machine race in action, massive, geometric structures that consumed entire worlds, breaking down all organic matter into energy. Sarah expected fear, panic, or at least lengthy debates about verification of the aliens' claims. Instead, she watched in amazement as her fellow humans immediately began asking practical questions about the harvesters' weaknesses, their patterns of behavior, their technological capabilities. "You're not surprised by our request?" First Speaker Wren asked, its energy form flickering with curiosity. "Oh, we're surprised," Sarah replied. "But when there's a crisis, humans tend to focus on solutions first and process their feelings later." "How can you be so calm?" Admiral Zeneval asked. "We're telling you that unstoppable machines are consuming the galaxy, and your species could be next." General Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Admiral, humanity has been preparing for alien invasions since we first looked up at the stars. We've made thousands of movies about it, written countless books. In a way, you're telling us our worst fears are real, but you're also telling us we might be able to help stop it." Besides, Sarah added, "humans have a long history of facing unstoppable threats. We've survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters. We've stared down the threat of nuclear annihilation. We're still here." The aliens exchanged looks that seemed to carry volumes of unspoken communication. Finally, Observer Kith spoke. "We monitored your species for centuries, but I don't think we ever truly understood you until now. When faced with an existential threat, most species either panic or freeze. You immediately start looking for ways to fight back. It's not just about fighting," Sarah explained. "It's about protecting others. Humans have a strong drive to help, even at great risk to ourselves. You're not just telling us about a threat to humanity. You're telling us about billions of innocent beings already suffering." The meeting continued for hours as the humans were briefed on the galactic situation. Sarah noticed something fascinating. The more they learned about the seemingly hopeless odds, the more determined her colleagues became. She could practically see the wheels turning in their heads, approaching the problem from angles the aliens might never have considered. "If I understand correctly," Sarah said, studying the holographic displays of harvester attacks, "these machines operate on pure logic. They analyze patterns and adapt their strategies accordingly." "Correct," Admiral Zeneval confirmed. "Their computational abilities far exceed even our most advanced AI systems." Sarah exchanged a knowing look with General Rodriguez. "Then maybe that's their weakness. Humans are notoriously illogical. We try things that shouldn't work. We take risks that defy statistical analysis. We find solutions precisely because we don't follow the expected patterns." "You believe this makes you stronger?" First Speaker Wren asked. "It makes us unpredictable," General Rodriguez answered. "And in warfare, Unpredictability can be the greatest advantage. As the meeting drew to a close, the aliens presented their formal request. They wanted to share their technology with humanity, rapidly advancing Earth's capabilities so they could join the fight against the harvesters. In return, they wanted humanity's unique perspective and determination. "We need time to consult with all Earth's nations," General Rodriguez said, "but speaking personally, I think you'll find humanity very willing to help." "Even knowing the risks?" Admiral Zeneval asked. "Even knowing that many of you may die?" Sarah stepped forward. "Admiral, humans have a saying. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. You've shown us there's evil spreading through the galaxy. How could we just sit back and watch?" As the aliens departed to allow Earth's leaders to deliberate, Observer Kith lingered behind. "Dr. Chen, when I recommended coming to Earth, many thought I was making a mistake. They said your species was too primitive, too violent, too unpredictable. But watching you all today, you exceeded even my highest hopes." Sarah smiled. "That's another thing about humans, Observer Kith. We have a habit of exceeding expectations, especially when everyone else thinks we'll fail." Looking out at the alien ship gleaming in the sunset, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Humanity was about to take its first steps into a larger universe, not as explorers or conquerors, but as defenders. They would be facing dangers beyond imagination, but they would face them the way humans always had, with determination, creativity, and an unwavering refusal to accept defeat. The galaxy had called for help. Humanity would answer. The bridge of the U.S. Sentinel hummed with activity as Captain Maya Patel watched her crew work alongside their alien counterparts. In just 3 months, humanity had advanced centuries with the help of United Systems technology. But it was what humans brought to the table that was turning the tide of war. "Ma'am, we're picking up harvester signatures in the Proxima sector," Lieutenant James Wong reported from his tactical station. Next to him, a crystalline officer similar to Admiral Zeneval monitored energy readings. "Show me," Maya ordered. The holographic display materialized, showing 3 harvester vessels approaching a populated system. The massive machines resembled geometric snowflakes made of dark metal, their surfaces rippling with absorbed energy. "They're following standard attack patterns," the crystalline officer, Commander Lux, observed. "Based on previous encounters, they'll split their forces to surround the colony." Maya smiled. "That's exactly what we want them to think." "Lieutenant Wong, is Strike Team Alpha in position?" "Yes, Captain. Dr. Chen's modifications are ready." 3 months ago, the United Systems would have responded with a formal defensive formation, trying to outmaneuver the harvesters with pure logic. They would have failed. But humans had brought something new to the battlefield. Chaos. "Execute Operation Thunderbolt," Maya commanded. Across the sector, human and alien ships moved in seemingly random patterns. To the harvesters' analytical minds, it would appear as panic, disorganization. In reality, it was a carefully choreographed dance of controlled chaos. On the research vessel horizon, Dr. Sarah Chen watched her monitors intently. After studying the harvester's energy absorption capabilities, she had proposed something that the alien scientists had considered impossible: overloading the machines by giving them exactly what they wanted. "Energy signatures at maximum," she reported over the comm. "Ready on your mark, Captain." The harvester ships moved exactly as predicted, spreading out to encircle their prey. They never expected their targets to suddenly charge straight at them. "Now," Maya ordered. Every ship in the human-alien fleet opened fire, not with conventional weapons, but with concentrated bursts of the exact energy frequency the harvesters sought. The machines eagerly began absorbing the energy, their surfaces pulsing brighter. "They're taking the bait," Commander Lux reported, his crystalline form brightening with excitement. "Energy absorption rates are climbing." "Keep pushing," Maya commanded. "All ships maintain course." The harvesters, programmed to consume energy efficiently, couldn't override their basic protocols. They continued absorbing the offered energy, even as their systems began to overload. Critical threshold reached. Sarah's voice announced, "They're going to." The nearest harvester ship suddenly exploded in a burst of light, its perfectly ordered structure unable to contain the chaotic energy it had consumed. Its companions, linked through their collective intelligence, suffered cascade failures and followed suit. Cheers erupted across the bridge. It was their third successful engagement using the new strategy. The harvesters, for all their computational power, couldn't adapt to an attack that used their own nature against them. "I still can't believe it worked," Commander Lux said, his crystalline form shimmering with amazement. "Our scientists spent years trying to penetrate their defenses, and humans simply fed them to death." "Sometimes the best solution is the obvious one," Maya replied. "We just had to think outside your very logical box." But there was no time to celebrate. Another alert sounded, this one from General Rodriguez's flagship, the Defender. "Captain Patel," the general's hologram appeared on the bridge. "We've got a situation in the Centauri arm. The harvesters are adapting. They've started modulating their energy absorption rates." Maya nodded grimly. It was expected. The machines were learning, as they always did. But humanity had learned something too. There was no such thing as an unbeatable enemy. "General, remember those old Earth movies about computer viruses?" Maya asked, an idea forming. "Captain, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? The harvesters are connected through a quantum network, right? They share information, adapt as a collective. But that means they share vulnerabilities too." Sarah cut in, her scientific mind racing ahead. "If we could introduce a chaotic element into their network itself." Over the next few hours, the combined human-alien fleet regrouped and refined their strategy. The United Systems provided their understanding of quantum networks, while human computer scientists contributed their experience with virus creation and system disruption. "It's elegant in its simplicity," Sarah explained to the assembled commanders. "We're not trying to destroy their network. We're going to give it a case of hiccups." The plan was quintessentially human. Not a direct attack, but a subtle undermining of the very order the harvesters depended on. They would introduce random variables into the machine's perfect calculations, creating uncertainty in a system that required certainty to function. As they prepared for their next engagement, Maya noticed something remarkable. The alien crew members were starting to adopt human traits, taking calculated risks, trying unconventional approaches, even making jokes. It wasn't just technology that humanity was sharing with their new allies, but a way of thinking, a spirit of innovation and determination. "Captain," Commander Lux said quietly, "before we met humans, we thought we were doomed because we had tried everything possible. You showed us that possible is just a matter of perspective." Maya watched her crew, human and alien, working seamlessly together, each bringing their unique strengths to the fight. The harvesters were formidable, but they were about to learn that the most dangerous force in the universe wasn't perfect logic or overwhelming power. It was the ability to adapt, to think creatively, and most importantly, to never give up even when all hope seemed lost. These were humanity's gifts to the galaxy, and they were proving more powerful than any weapon. All ships, battle stations, Maya ordered as new harvester signatures appeared on their sensors. "Let's show these machines that chaos isn't just the absence of order. It's the mother of innovation." As the fleet moved into position, Maya felt a surge of pride. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as conquerors or victims, but as partners and protectors. They were bringing hope to a fight that had seemed hopeless, proving that sometimes the most primitive solution was the most effective one. The harvesters were about to learn what countless adversities on Earth had learned before them. Underestimate humans at your own risk. The emergency council chamber aboard the United Systems flagship Concordia was filled with holographic representatives from across the galaxy. The mood was grim. Despite humanity's innovative tactics and the recent victories they'd achieved, The harvesters had launched their largest offensive yet. General Rodriguez stood before the assembled council, his uniform bearing the marks of recent battle. The harvesters have adapted to our chaos protocols. They've developed quantum shielding that can regulate energy absorption, and they've fragmented their network to resist our viral attacks. 18 systems lost in the past week alone. Admiral Zeneval added, her crystalline form dulled with exhaustion. They're advancing faster than ever. Dr. Sarah Chen studied the tactical displays, watching red indicators spread across the galactic map like a virus. The harvesters had learned from each defeat, becoming stronger, more resilient. But something about their new strategy nagged at her scientific mind. They're not just adapting, she said suddenly. They're anticipating. Look at their attack patterns. She manipulated the holographic display, highlighting the harvester fleet movements. They're not targeting strategic positions anymore. They're hitting civilian populations first, causing maximum panic and disruption before moving on to military targets. They've learned that organic beings are driven by emotion. First Speaker Ren observed, his energy form flickering. They're using our concern for others against us. Captain Maya Patel, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. No, she said firmly. They're showing us their weakness. All eyes turned to her. Maya pointed to a particularly devastating attack that had claimed millions of lives. The harvesters think they found our vulnerability, our emotional attachment to others. But they're wrong. That's not our weakness. It's our greatest strength. Explain, Admiral Zeneval requested. Throughout human history, our greatest achievements came not from cold logic, but from emotional drives, Maya continued. We've moved mountains to save single lives. We've achieved the impossible because we refuse to accept losing those we care about. Sarah's eyes widened as she understood. They're trying to break our spirit by targeting civilians. But that's because they don't understand what happens when humans have something precious to protect. Exactly. General Rodriguez agreed, his voice growing stronger. The harvesters operate on pure logic. They see our emotional connections as inefficient, irrational. They think targeting civilians will make us retreat, regroup, act defensively. But it will do the opposite, Maya said. It will make us fight harder. And not just humans. Look around this room. Every species here has learned from us. You've all started thinking differently, feeling differently. She was right. The United Systems forces had changed over the months of fighting alongside humans. They'd learned to trust instincts over pure logic, to take risks that statistics said were foolish, to fight with passion rather than just precision. The harvesters are making a fundamental mistake, Sarah added. They think causing maximum civilian casualties will break us. Instead, it's giving every being in the galaxy something worth fighting for. But how does this help us? Commander Lux asked, his crystalline form pulsing with a mix of hope and uncertainty. They're still overwhelming our defenses. Because now we know what they don't understand, Maya replied, and we can use that against them. Over the next hours, a new strategy emerged. It was audacious, perhaps even insane by the United Systems' traditional standards. But as one alien commander observed, humans had made insanity into an art form. The plan was deceptively simple. Instead of trying to protect every system, they would evacuate civilians from vulnerable worlds, deliberately creating refugee crises. The harvesters, programmed to target civilian populations, would be drawn to these mass movements of organic life. They'll think they're breaking our spirit, General Rodriguez explained. Instead, they'll be walking into our trap. Sarah had discovered something crucial about the harvester's new quantum shielding. It's incredibly effective, but maintaining it requires massive amounts of energy. They can't sustain it indefinitely. So we make them chase shadows, Maya continued. Wear them down. And when they're stretched thin. The plan was risky. It meant temporarily abandoning systems, asking millions of beings to leave their homes. In the past, such a suggestion would have been unthinkable to the United Systems. But they had learned from humanity that sometimes you had to lose ground to win the war. As the council debated, a message arrived that changed everything. The harvesters had struck Earth's outer colonies. The casualties were enormous. The humans in the room fell silent. The aliens expected grief, rage, perhaps even despair. Instead, they saw something else in their human allies' eyes: steel-hard determination. "They think they've struck a decisive blow," General Rodriguez said quietly. "But all they've done is give every human in the galaxy a personal stake in this fight. The harvesters want to see what happens when they push us to our breaking point." Maya's voice was cold. "Let's show them." The evacuation orders went out across the galaxy. Massive refugee fleets began moving between the stars, protected by combined human-alien battle groups. The harvesters, true to prediction, followed these concentrations of organic life, expending massive energy to maintain their shields against expected attacks. But the attacks didn't come. Not yet. "They don't understand why we're not fighting back," Sarah observed, watching the harvester fleets spread themselves thinner and thinner. "They can't comprehend that sometimes appearing to break is actually a sign of strength." The United Systems forces had learned this lesson well. Where once they would have seen retreat as failure, now they understood the human concept of strategic withdrawal. Where they would have seen emotional attachment as weakness, now they recognized it as a source of incredible strength. As the harvesters committed more and more resources to chasing refugee fleets across the galaxy, Maya stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, watching the pieces fall into place. "All this time," she said to Commander Lux, "they thought they were learning about us, adapting to our strategies. But we were learning about them too. And we learned something they'll never understand." "What's that, Captain?" "That the most powerful force in the universe isn't logic or efficiency or even raw power," Maya replied. "It's the will to protect what you love." The trap was almost ready. The harvesters had taken the bait, spreading themselves across the galaxy, their quantum shields draining their energy reserves. They thought they were hurting frightened refugees, breaking the spirit of organic life. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The combined fleet of human and alien vessels hung in the darkness of space, hidden within a nebula's swirling gases. They had been waiting for 3 days as the harvester forces chased refugee convoys across the galaxy. Their quantum shields constantly active, their energy reserves slowly but steadily depleting. On the bridge of the Sentinel, Captain Maya Patel watched the tactical display with Dr. Sarah Chen and Commander Lux. Red dots representing harvester ships were spread thin across the galaxy, exactly as planned. "Energy readings from their quantum shields are down 30%, Sarah reported. "They're beginning to show signs of strain." "All fleet elements report ready," Commander Lux added, his crystalline form glowing with anticipation. "The refugees are safely beyond their reach." Maya nodded. "Send the signal. It's time to show the harvesters what happens when you push life itself into a corner." Across the galaxy, hidden fleets emerged from nebulae, asteroid fields, and planetary shadows. The harvesters, their forces dispersed in pursuit of civilian targets, suddenly found themselves confronted by concentrated enemy forces at multiple points. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega." General Rodriguez's voice came through the command channel. "Remember what we're fighting for." The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries as the moment when the galaxy's diverse species truly became one united force. Human ingenuity combined with alien technology in ways the harvesters could never have predicted. Crystalline ships channeled energy through human-designed focusing arrays, creating weapons that bypassed the weakened quantum shields. Waterform vessels flowed through space in patterns that defied physics, delivering devastating strikes before seeming to evaporate. Energy beings merged with ship systems, enhancing their capabilities beyond design specifications. And through it all, humanity's influence was clear, not in the technology or tactics alone, but in the spirit of the attack. Where once the United Systems forces would have retreated at the first sign of heavy losses, now they pushed forward, each sacrifice driving them to fight harder rather than break. Multiple harvester ships showing critical instability, Sarah announced, her fingers flying over her console. Their network is fragmenting under the strain. The harvesters try to adapt, to analyze the attack patterns and develop countermeasures, but there were no patterns to analyze. Each fleet element fought differently, unpredictably, guided by emotion and instinct, as much as strategy. They're attempting to regroup, Commander Lux reported, trying to consolidate their forces. Maya smiled grimly. That's exactly what we wanted. General Rodriguez, Stage 2 is ready. The human-alien fleet began to pull back, appearing to give the harvesters the opportunity to reunite their forces. The machines, operating on logical protocols, took the obvious tactical option and began to converge. Now, Sarah, Maya ordered. Dr. Chen activated the device she had spent months developing, a quantum resonance transmitter that took advantage of the harvesters' own network protocols. As their ships drew together, trying to combine their remaining energy reserves, the signal went out. Think of it like a computer virus, Sarah had explained during the planning stages. But instead of attacking their code, it creates an emotional feedback loop. Every feeling they've encountered while fighting us, every moment of human determination, every act of alien sacrifice, every instance of illogical bravery, gets amplified and fed back through their network. The effect was devastating. The harvester ships, designed to process information with perfect logic, were suddenly flooded with organic emotional responses they couldn't comprehend or counteract. Their network, already strained by maintaining quantum shields, began to collapse. It's working, Sarah breathed, watching her monitors. Their systems are cascading. The harvester fleet erupted in a series of explosions as ship after ship succumbed to the emotional overload. Their perfectly ordered minds couldn't handle the chaos of organic feelings, the illogical drive to protect others at any cost, the willing sacrifice of the few to save the many. When the light faded, the remnants of the harvester fleet drifted powerless in space. Their threat to the galaxy was ended not by superior technology or overwhelming force, but by the very emotions they had dismissed as weakness. The celebration that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Species that had once been formal and reserved now expressed joy openly, embracing the human way of letting emotions flow freely. The United Systems would never be the same. In the aftermath, as the various species began the work of rebuilding, Observer Kith stood before the Strategic Command one final time. The small gray-furred being looked out at faces both alien and human, seeing how they had changed, how they had grown. When we first contacted Earth, Kith said, we thought we were seeking warriors to fight our battles. Instead, we found teachers who showed us a new way to live. The harvesters failed not because we had better weapons, but because humanity taught us that our greatest strength lies in our connections to each other. Admiral Zeneval's crystalline form glowed brightly as she added, we learned that emotion is not a weakness to be controlled, but a power to be embraced. That illogical actions, driven by love and sacrifice, can achieve what perfect logic cannot. Dr. Sarah Chen, standing with Captain Maya Patil and General Rodriguez, felt a profound sense of pride. Humanity had entered the galactic community as a primitive species, but they had brought something more valuable than advanced technology. They had brought hope, determination, and a reminder that life itself was worth fighting for. So what happens now? Maya asked, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so distant or cold. Now, First Speaker Ren replied, his energy form pulsing warmly, we build something new together. The United Systems will no longer be guided by pure logic and careful regulation. We will forge a path that balances reason with emotion, caution with courage. General Rodriguez smiled. Humanity has a saying. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We've taken that step together. As the gathered representatives discussed plans for the future, Sarah noticed something remarkable. The aliens no longer maintained rigid formal protocols. They laughed. They argued. They showed concern and joy openly. They had evolved, not through biological change or technological advancement, but through learning to embrace their own capacity for emotion and connection. The harvesters had sought to convert all organic life into pure energy, seeing biology as inefficient and emotions as flaws to be eliminated. In the end, it was those very flaws that had defeated them. The messiness of organic life, its emotions, its irrationality, its ability to form bonds and fight for others, had proven stronger than perfect machine logic. Maya looked at her mixed human-alien crew, no longer seeing differences but strength in diversity. You know what the harvesters never understood. Life isn't about being perfect. It's about growing, changing, feeling. Sometimes it's messy and illogical, but that's what makes it beautiful. The galaxy was entering a new age, one that would combine the best of all species. And it had begun because humanity, when called upon, had shared not just their strength or their ingenuity, but their very way of being, their capacity to feel, to care, and to fight for what they loved. The stars seemed brighter somehow, full of possibility. The journey ahead would have its challenges, but they would face them together, with both logic and emotion, reason and passion, technology and heart. Life, in all its beautiful imperfection, had prevailed.